All right, so I think I promised you guys this video for like a long time now. I actually think I owe you guys this video at this point. From knowing we have over 300,000 subscribers on one channel, which is the shorts channel, and then we have the main stories, these long, amazing stories that you guys actually listen to almost daily now, and getting another 100,000 subscribers is insane. You guys are actually changing my life. Knowing how we went from literally telling stories about me doing silly things to now literally telling the story about how Bubba streams, aka Bubba, aka Arash Bubba Moini on famous birthdays. Check it out. Make sure to go boost me. Lost it. This is intense. So, like I always say, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into this story. What is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome to another crazy story. Obviously, this is the story everyone's been waiting for, and this story starts back in middle school. That's right, literally middle school. Now, middle school was literally, I think, the most craziest time of my life. Why? Well, that's when I started experiencing hormones, aka, you know, getting the schlong long thing. Yeah, anyways, yeah, basically, you know, having that experience of, you know, hitting those hormones and hitting puberty in a sense. And when you hit puberty, you start finding things attractive, aka women, or I mean, whatever you prefer in a sense. I should remember it's 2021, and obviously, you know, a lot of things have changed. For example, you know, people be who they want to be, and I love it. Anyways, off topic, back to what I was saying. So yeah, obviously the way I lost it was one of the most craziest things, and I will always remember it to this day, because like, let's just say I was kind of like in forever in my mind. And I always kind of replay it sometimes thinking, you know, if I didn't lose it that day, who would I be today? Because, you know, basically almost all my content, or a lot of my content, is based around crazy, scary experiences I had either with a woman or, you know, with my buddies of mine, or just something I shouldn't have done in the first place. And I honestly like got to give it to this girl that I did it with. Like she took it like a champ. But anyways, like I was saying, back in middle school, this was my, I want to say seventh year in school, grade 7, almost grade 8, somewhere around there. I remember I was a really different person. My only values and only special thing I ever cared about really in reality was, of course, my Xbox, my gaming. And of course, after my middle school crush totally just denied me, I didn't have anything or anyone in a sense. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there was a buddy of mine that I had back in middle school. He knew this chick that was really outstanding. She was beautiful and she was smart. Now, I didn't find her attractive like that. Like, I didn't find her in a way where like I was a helpless romantic like I usually am in most of these stories. But I did actually like, you know, find her just hot in a sense. Like, you know, like how a guy would walk up to you and be like, oh, you're hot. That's for the ladies, by the way. Like, I think they'll understand it more than the guys. For guys, just expect a girl walking up to you really just wanting to do the devil's tango with you. Like, it's one of those senses. But anyways, the way I lost it was very odd because it had to do something with this girl. Now, my buddy was friends with this girl, and this girl was just, you know, she was chilling, she was beautiful, she was smart, and she lived near a middle school. It wasn't my middle school, but she went to another middle school. And I remember meeting her at the mall, kind of like hanging out with her, with like her friend and my friend that was friends with her. And it was just a weird triangle in a sense. Like, it wasn't a love triangle, but it was like a friend circle triangle, whatever shape you want it to be. I don't really care at this point. But yeah, she was a great girl and stuff. And I remember like at the mall when we were all hanging out for the first time, I exchanged Snapchats with her, and bippity boppity boo, I don't know, I just kind of started hitting her up out of the blue. That kind of rhymed. That was actually really cool. Can we keep that in there? Anyways, like I was saying though. Anyways, so when me and her got home, or at least when she got home at her place and I got home at my place, we started snapping each other like crazy. And by like crazy, I mean literally like I couldn't focus on playing my Call of Duty and literally going on my phone snapping her. And I had like an iPhone 6 at the time. Like, this wasn't anything special. And it was just really weird to like snap her over and over on my phone when I should be playing with the boys. But anyways, I did, and we kept snapping back and forth, and it got to the point where, you know, I guess she had a lot more experience than me. Like, she had a lot more experience than me. And by experience, I mean like she was like already like the masters of the devil's tango. And she was like kind of asking me questions like, so like, did you do it yet? Are you used to it? How many times have you done it? Have you ever gotten the Glock 9000? Okay, that last one was a joke, but you kind of get the gist of it. It was really, really awkward because she was asking me all these questions that I never had experience with, okay? But she did. And what do I decide to do? Well, I decided to do what every boy I think has done in their life, and that's lie, okay? I literally lied to this chick saying I was the best at doing the devil's tango, which is kind of funny now because I think I am actually pretty good at it. But it's funny to hear it like from back then, me knowing I actually lied to a chick being that good at it, and then now not being greatest at it but pretending I was good at doing the devil's tango. I don't know, it was very, very weird. Anyways, like I was saying though, after we had that conversation, she was, you know, sending me photos. You know, I'm not gonna say what because YouTube might demonetize this, but you know, it was, you know, I was getting sent the thingamabobs, you know what I'm saying, like the cherries and peaches. That's what we're gonna call it, cherries and peaches. And me enjoying the view. I don't know what happened, but she then snapped me saying, hey hey, do you want to like meet up? Now at this point, like I said, I was in middle school. I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. It was late at night. I want to say it was like almost like 3 a.m. Okay, it wasn't 3 a.m. I think it was like more like 1:30, but it felt like 3 a.m. because I don't know, time just wasn't a thing for me back then. But anyways, yeah, so she snapped me. She was telling me all this and I was like, okay, like I'm down. Me sounding like Mr. Confident over here about everything. I just said I'm down. And let's just say when we actually like, you know, planned out what we were going to do, she told me to meet up at a middle school, a literal middle school. It wasn't our middle school, thank God, but it was another middle school that was like near her place. And I remember I had no idea how to get there because it was like a 20-minute walk from me, or like more like half an hour in a sense. So I decided to get my BMX bike and actually ride down there. And yes, I had a beautiful BMX bike. I used to be like a BMX kid back then. But anyways, I got my BMX bike and I rode all the way, like the whole, like, I want to say it almost took me like 15 minutes, almost half of the time it usually gets to get there. I don't know. I had lived on a hill, so it was very easy to go down hills. Going back wasn't the fun part. But anyways, like I was saying though, so I rode all the way down and I basically made it to the middle school she told me to meet up at, and she was sitting at a bench by herself. When she was sitting at the bench, she was like, you know, told me to sit down and told me about life and stuff. And then she kind of looked at me and stuff. She's like, so are you gonna make a move? Okay, whoa, okay. Like this girl, like, oh, she was more confident than ever. Like, damn, she like really just, in a way, like this sounds really bad, but she really wanted it. Okay, like I didn't know what to do. So I remember I decided to literally like get my hand, and I remember counting to 3 and just putting my hand on like her cherry. Yeah, I'm trying to like describe this the best way possible. And let's just say from there, we went under like this undercover area at the middle school and we did the Devil's Tango. And yeah, it just happened. And I remember after the whole thing, it was so awkward being with her because, like, you know, I didn't want to tell her it was my first time, but in a way she kind of figured it out because, well, I didn't know where it actually went to be. Anyways, yeah, so it was awkward in general. But yeah, either way, one way or another, I ended up doing it. And yeah, that's how I lost it. And then from there, I don't know, I just kind of always had the urge to do it again and again. And let's just say I became who I am today, Bubba Streams, aka the Devil's Tango guy that you guys may know me for, which I really don't want to resolve my brand around, you know, doing the Devil's Tango. So if you guys have like any experiences you guys actually want to hear, that's more than just, you know, me getting chicks, which, you know, yes, I'm really good at doing that, but there's other things too. Put in the comments down below. But anyways, guys, that's basically it for the video. Thank you so much for 100,000 subscribers, 2 plaques already on the board. Thanks to you guys. Make sure you guys subscribe to all the channels, leave a like, subscribe, and like I always say, follow for more embarrassing stories. Peace. I remember as I was super bricked in class, I got super embarrassed to the point where I got up and I ran to the bathroom. And since I was alone in the bathroom, I thought, oh, you know what? I should just deal with it. And I went inside the bathroom stall, and that's when I did the biggest mistake ever. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another embarrassing but insane story. So today's story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was my grade 9 year. Now, high school was a really difficult time for me. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it's true. I was a major player, but still, there's a lot of parts of high school that I really hated. And one of them was hitting puberty. Now, if you guys don't know, going from grade 8 to grade 9 for me was the major puberty jump. That's when I really started to become, I guess, the full-on man that I am today, which sounds really embarrassing from the way I'm about to tell this story, but honestly, it is what it is. But I remember one day in my grade 9 year, I was entering inside my school to start the day. And as I walked inside my school, I went straight for my social studies classroom. Now, my social studies class, it was a pretty boring class, don't get me wrong, but I remember having one girl in that class that I had a major crush on. Now, in my grade 9 year, I wasn't confident enough to pull girls. Don't get me wrong, I've done the Devil's Tango before that, but still, in terms of my Riz game, it wasn't that good. To the point where I really like struggled going up to girls and I guess showing that I had confidence in some sort of way. So knowing that I had no way to pull up to my crush was really, really embarrassing. And also another thing that you guys need to know for the story to make sense is that back when I was in grade 9, the crush that I had was a girl that was really innocent. And by innocent, I don't mean like she was a nun. Like, I'm talking about she was basically a person that wasn't a player, nor was she interested in any other guy. She always kept to herself, focused on her schoolwork, and always made sure she was covered up by the shoulders. I know that sounds kind of weird for me to say, but at the same time, you guys gotta understand, nowadays in the school system, you see some pretty whack people wearing the most whack outfits ever. And me thinking that my crush would never end up being that way, well, it seems in 1 year, a person can change a lot. Because I remember as like 6 months went by of me not being able to go up to my crush and not able to say anything to her, rumors started to spread around that I had a crush on her. And don't get me wrong, I might have told like 1 or 2 people that I had a crush on her, but I didn't think things would spread out that fast. To the point where I remember she knew I had a crush on her and she always wanted me to basically walk up to her and kind of ask her out. Obviously for me, well, God knows that wasn't gonna happen because I did not have any confidence to do so whatsoever. Until that one day 6 months later, where I remember my crush, she ended up skipping class for some reason, and I started to become curious of why. I even ended up seeing her in the school hallway, and she looked at me expecting me to walk up to her, but did I? No, because once again, I had no confidence. And also, not to mention, I had a majorly bad stutter. I might have mentioned that many times on this channel, but still, my grade 9 year, okay, I was stuttering like the nutcracker. But that's not even the worst part, because I remember as she was staring at me to walk up to her, I ended up walking a different way, and then she ended up walking up to one of my friends. I kept walking when she walked up to my friend because I did not want to interact with her because I didn't want to embarrass myself. But then after a while, my friend ended up running up to me and catching up with me saying, yo, Bubba, why don't you just like go like talk to her? What? Why would I do that? Bubba, she wants to talk to you, bro. She's interested in you. What do you mean? Why would she be interested in me? I don't know. Maybe because you had a crush on her this entire school year? Bro, I'm not gonna walk up to her, okay? That's weird. Bubba, you're missing out, bro. Girls never shoot first, and the more you make them wait, the more they change. I didn't know what he meant by this, but when he gave me that piece of advice, I thought it was pure baloney until 3 days later. Because 3 days later, I remember I was sitting inside my social studies classroom, and that's when I realized that my crush ended up walking in. She walked in with a totally different outfit, and this outfit was really, really tight. And by tight, I mean tight like her cherries were about to explode, and her peach was showing more than the Canadian flag on top of our school. It was literally insane. And I remember as I'm looking at her, staring at her, I got really confused, but then I got really, really attracted to her. To the point where I remember she caught me staring, and what she ended up doing was walking up to me. She walked up to me and said, hey, Bubba, how are you doing? I'm good. Me being totally nervous, not knowing what to say. Oh, well, I don't know. Like, I just wanted to like say, like, I think you're pretty awesome. And like, I don't know, like, you down to like hang out sometime? I remember I couldn't get a word out because I was so nervous, but I remember she ended up putting her hand literally on my thigh as she was saying this. And God knows what ended up happening next. Well, I mean, not only God knows now, I guess you guys are about to know because I'm about to tell you guys that no joke, my eggplant got super brick. Like so brick to the fact that I started panicking and being super, super nervous. And I remember it got to the point where my crush actually ended up rubbing my thigh. And that's when I stood up as fast as I could saying, yeah, sure, we could definitely hang out. Okay, I gotta go. And I remember I ended up sprinting out of that classroom so quick. And I went straight for the guy's bathroom. I ended up going inside the guy's bathroom and closing the stall door. And since I was alone in there, I ended up thinking to myself, honestly, like I could just quickly get rid of this and then go back to class and pretend nothing happened. And that's what I did. I ended up whipping out my eggplant and beating it for the first time at school. Yeah, that sounds really bad to say. And before anyone says anything, please don't cancel me, okay? I was a dumb kid back then. I didn't know any better. And always remember this, guys. Do not do what I do in these stories. Seriously, a lot of regret can come out of them. But anyways, going on with the story, I remember things got a lot worse. Because I remember as I was beating my eggplant, out of nowhere, I ended up hearing random guys coming into the school bathroom. They came inside the school bathroom, and funny enough, they were literally from my class. They ended up saying to each other, yo, I wonder where that Bubba guy went, bro. Like, his crush ended up walking up to him and just runs away. What a weirdo.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, why would he do that? Like, he's so weird for just running away.
And as they were talking about me, I remember my hand was just holding my eggplant, super worried and hoping that they wouldn't hear me breathing at all. But then I remember as they were looking around, they ended up realizing that they weren't in the bathroom alone because one of the guys ended up saying,
oh, yo, wait, is that Bubba's shoes? Yo, I think that's Bubba's shoes, guys. Bubba, is that you in there?
I remember that moment, I instantly stood up and pulled up my pants as fast as possible. Even though I was still super brick, I remember I pulled up my pants, opened the stall door and said, yeah, hey guys, what's going on?
Bubba, you forgot to flush.
Oh, right, sorry. I remember I ended up going to flush the toilet and these guys just started making fun of me. And that's when one of the guys ended up asking, yo, Bubba, are you gonna like actually like go out with this girl or like am I allowed to like slide in as well? I remember when he said that, I turned around and literally said to him, what? No, I like her and I'm gonna talk to her. It's just, I don't know, it's just hard for me to. And that's when they gave me the biggest piece of advice ever. Bubba, if you want to pull a girl, bro, just count down from 3 and just say what you gotta say, man. Don't be a wimp. Be a man. I remember at first, I thought this advice was the most dumbest thing ever coming out of this guy's mouth. And probably you guys are thinking the same thing, if I'm being honest with you. But I remember I ended up going back into the hallway, still totally bricked up, by the way. And I remember I saw my crush walking down the hallway. She walks up to me and says, Bubba, there you are. Listen, I'm sorry if I made you nervous. Honestly, like, I just really want to talk to you and, like, actually, like, give you a chance. But it just seems like you don't want it or you do. I can't really tell anymore. And that's when I ended up doing what the guy said. I counted down from 3 and said, so honestly, I'm down to, like, hang out. It's just, like, you know, I have a really bad stutter. So if I sound stupid, I'm sorry. Well, you didn't stutter that time. Yeah, I know. Oh, you did that time, is what she says. And she starts laughing. Honestly, at first I was embarrassed, but then she ended up holding my hand. And me and her actually ended up walking across the street and going to get some pizza together from 7-Eleven. I guess more moral of the story is that don't go in the bathroom and beat your eggplant. Just go out with your crush and be a man. Actually, that sounds terrible. Honestly, just don't do anything at school that's sus, okay? Seriously, don't follow along my footsteps. But if you guys think this story is totally fake, then fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. Okay, so today's story has got to be one of the most embarrassing things I've ever told. But I'm gonna be honest here, a lot of you guys for some reason enjoyed the video where I talked about beating my meat for the first time. But I bet you guys did not know that I also beated it at school. And it's super weird how this happened, so make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And let's just jump straight into this. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a really embarrassing story. So this story all takes place back when I was in grade 6, and when I just first started to, you know, I guess beat my meat. I don't know why, but like beating your meat became like such a normalized thing in middle school, at least for me. And I don't know about girls, obviously for some reason they mature faster than guys, but I'm not gonna lie to you, the only way I knew how to handle my, you know, eggplant at the time, every time I got bricked, was to, you know, basically beat it. And I remember one time when I was in school, I was basically going to my locker. My locker was right beside my middle school crushes, by the way, which I talk a lot about her on the channel to the point where it's kind of creepy. But at the same time, I guess I kind of just dwell over middle school. Like I'm literally like Greg Heffley, except an adult version that keeps talking about middle school. Well, I never realized how much those books actually mean to me. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember basically I was walking up to my locker and my middle school crush's locker was right beside mine. And when I went up to my locker, I remember I had to get ready for PE class, but I was always so nervous to go to my locker when my crush was there, because obviously that would mean that I have to interact with her, which is the main reason why I got the locker. So I decided to just say whatever and go up to my locker and start opening it. As I start opening it, I remember she looks over at me and says, what you up to? I'm just getting ready for class, you know, same old. What about you? Oh, you know, I'm just getting ready for class as well. What class do you got? Oh, I have PE. And as I'm about to reach into my locker for my gym bag, she automatically decides to basically touch me, move me aside, and grab my gym bag for me. She grabbed it and gave it to me saying, here's your gym bag. And at that moment, I was so nervous. And I got to the point where I kept staring at her eyes and I got aroused. And then afterwards, I ended up grabbing my bag and running away. I didn't even lock my locker. She ended up locking it for me, which was nice of her. But at the same time, I didn't really know what to do at that moment. I remember from there, I instantly ran to basically PE class. But before that, I had to go to the change room. And when I went to the change room, all the guys were there changing. But me, one thing I realized about myself was that I was bricked. And the only way I knew how to handle getting bricked at the time was, well, beating my eggplant. Yeah, kind of weird. But honestly, on this channel, let's be real here, I've told worse. I remember from there, I was super nervous to get changed in front of everyone because I knew everyone was going to make fun of me getting bricked. So what I decided to do was go to the middle school showers that were in the change room and basically get changed in there. But obviously, before I got changed, since I was wearing sweatpants for PE, I decided to basically beat my meat in the shower at middle school. Yeah, I'm gonna say this right now, the middle school showers are literally cursed, and whoever actually uses the showers in middle school was probably a weirdo or your ugly gym teacher. But one thing for me, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was so like just bricked to the point where I knew if I wore my sweatpants and went to class, everyone was gonna notice that I was still bricked. So obviously I decided to, you know, beat my meat, you know, and then I ended up just putting on my gym clothes and went straight to PE. I went to PE class and obviously I wasn't bricked up anymore since I dealt with it. And on top of that, I hated PE class because I kept getting nailed in the head in dodgeball, because for some reason dodgeball is a unit. I don't know why. It's not like I'm gonna be dodging balls in real life, maybe bullets one day, but not balls. And then one thing led to another. I remember after PE class, I ended up going back towards the change rooms to get changed for my next class. As I was heading to the change rooms, I remember all the guys were there, but they weren't changing. They were all surrounding the middle school showers and looking at the ground saying, what is that white stuff on the ground? Wait, guys, come look at this. And I remember from there, everyone started to look at my Devil's cream that was on the ground. I remember I was so nervous to go up there, and one of my friends actually came up to me, tapping me on the back saying, yo, Bubba, someone did the Devil's cream in the middle school showers. Can you imagine? No, I can't imagine. That's so weird. Who would do that? That's like so disgusting. I had to pretend that it wasn't me because obviously I didn't want to get made fun of. So from there, I remember I ended up just basically not getting changed and ran straight for my locker. And honestly, who knows? Maybe like the middle school had like something they can like probe, you know, my Devil's cream, and then like basically like scan, and who knows, maybe that like Devil's cream could have identified me. Like I was in serious risk, people. At least that's what I thought in middle school. So from there, what I decided to do was basically go straight to my locker. And when I got there, I remember I ended up basically seeing my middle school crush there. When I saw her there, she was getting ready for her next class, and for some reason we kept going to our lockers at the same time. But at the same time, that's what I got the locker for in the first place. And when I walked up to my locker, I remember she looked at me saying, oh, you didn't get changed? Nah, I like sweatpants. sweatpants. And then I remember she looks over at me and says, oh, like, I recognize those sweatpants. My older brother has a pair, and ends up touching my sweatpants. She literally touched me near my eggplant area. I remember I was freaking out. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I remember I ran straight for my next class. But before I went through that door, I realized that I was bricked once again. At this point, I didn't know what to do. There was only one way I knew how to handle it, and that was with Mother Nature herself and my left hand. So I remember I went straight to the bathrooms, and I went straight into a bathroom stall, and I decided to beat my meat once again. Obviously, you know, I did my thing. I did the devil's cream for the second time at school, which is super weird, by the way. And I remember right as I walk out of the bathroom stall, instantly I see two boys vaping in there that were in grade 8, just looking at me thinking, bro, there's no way this guy actually just beated his meat in a stall in middle school. What a weirdo. And then he ended up basically laughing at me, and I ran out of the bathroom. And well, one thing led to another. I was known for beating my meat in school. Obviously, this was super embarrassing, but I'm not gonna lie to you, there was an upside to the story, because I remember later on that year, I guess a lot of us started hitting puberty even more, and it got to the point where there was a chart on the bathroom stall wall that was basically how many times people have beaten their meat in the stall. That's super weird, and I shouldn't be saying that because it's kind of gross at the same time, but hey, I mean, I wasn't the only one. I don't know. Moral of the story is that try to control yourselves. It's probably better to control yourself than not. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's embarrassing story. Make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do, and just follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. This TikToker was obsessed with me to the point where she sent me her cherries. This story does get insane, so like and subscribe or you will never find a girlfriend. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to an embarrassing story. So today's story all takes place 2 years ago. 2 years ago, as you guys may know, we ended up blowing up on TikTok. We have over 2 million followers on there, and I gotta say, TikTok was one of the most insane things ever, because once you're labeled as a TikToker, people start treating you differently. And I gotta say, I try to keep work as professional as possible, even though all I ever talk about is the DEVILS TANGO. But one thing I will say is that TikTokers, they don't care. Generally, I am now like gonna tell you guys the truth. TikTokers don't care if you're being professional or not. As long as you're posting a 1-minute video, you're cool enough. So I remember me being labeled as a TikToker. One thing I'd always do is just scroll through DMs and stuff and see, like, you know, what other creators I can reach out to and communicate with. Because when you become a creator, networking is like a major key to growing your account and business and just learning more about what it means to be a creator. But I remember one time when I posted on TikTok, I ended up getting a DM from this girl. Now this girl, she had a very, very popular TikTok account, and she was known for thirst trapping. So obviously she liked my content because all I ever talked about was doing the DEVILS TANGO. And her being a thirst trapper, well, you know, I'm not gonna lie, she thought we had a lot in common when in reality we actually didn't. And I remember when she reached out to me, I tried to keep it as professional as possible. But then I remember when she DM'd me saying, oh, like, I was just wondering, like, are all the stories like real and stuff? I ended up telling her yes, and you know how like it is real and everything. And she was very impressed to the point where she told me, oh, like, okay, well, like, you should like add me on Snap. Okay, yeah, I can add you on Snap. Now at this time, my Snapchat wasn't public. I didn't really like add other creators and stuff because that was like my personal thing for me and my IRLs. But out of nowhere, I remember this girl decides to add me, and I added her back, and me and her, we started talking. We started talking over Snapchat, and she asked me the same question again, where she goes, yo, Bubba, I have a question. So I know I asked this before, but be real with me. Are the stories like real? Yes, the stories are real. I don't know why I have to tell you so many times. They're all real stories. Wait, so you actually have done the DEVILS TANGO that many times? Yeah, I had a pretty eventful childhood, I guess. And when I told her this, I'm not gonna lie, things went from professional to freaky, because I remember right after I say that, she ends up sending me a message where she goes, well, I mean, that must mean you have a massive eggplant. I remember when I saw this, I remember thinking, this is so unprofessional, and there is no way I should be communicating with this chick, because this chick had a way bigger following than me, and she was way more famous than me. So me interacting with this girl was probably not going to be a good idea. So what I decided to do was basically kind of like not talk to her as much and kind of ignore her. And I remember one time when I was streaming and actually live on Twitch, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing that I got a Snapchat message from her. It was a message of her watching my stream, and she sent me a photo of her watching me live on Twitch. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. She's watching me. And then afterwards, she ends up sending me another photo right after when she saw that I was checking my phone on on stream and sent me a photo of her cherries. This TikToker with over like millions of followers sent me a photo of her cherries when I was live streaming. This honestly blew my mind, and I remember instantly when I saw that, I slammed my phone on my desk and everyone on Twitch saw what I was doing. And I remember I was just kind of freaking out, trying to play it off, pretend nothing was happening. But obviously, I won't lie to you, I was bricked. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like I never do on this channel, but I ended up getting bricked. And this honestly led to me, well, not thinking straight, because I remember I ended up ending stream a bit early that day. And I remember I ended up laying on my bed, basically wanting to take a nap because I usually get super tired after streams. And I remember I ended up getting a Snapchat message from this girl once again. She ended up saying like how I did a good job on stream and stuff, acting all professional, but then she sends me another photo of her cherries. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Why not? I remember me and her, we ended up basically doing the things over the phone. I'm not going to say what, but basically the DEVILS TANGO over the phone through Snapchat, which by the way, you should not do. It is a very unsafe platform to do that, and be safe with what you guys do. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do this. Me and her, we ended up doing that, and one thing led to another. This girl became absolutely obsessed with me to the point where I actually started freaking out, because I remember after that whole thing, I decided that maybe it would be best if I don't communicate with this girl as much, because obviously I want to be professional. I want to be, you know, known to be not a weirdo on the internet. So obviously I ended up basically telling her like, yo, like we should not do this again. We should be professional. And she ended up saying, Bubba, we're TikTokers. We don't need to be professional. I ended up not saying anything after that and basically started ignoring her. And me, the more I ignored her, the more she would find ways to try to interact with me. Like, for example, when I would stream on Twitch, she would basically spam my DMs and spam my Discord account and basically try to like get in touch with me. And for example, if I wasn't talking to her on there, she would basically try to like go through my TikTok comments and basically try to get people to add me to message her. It got to the point where it was so bad and people started noticing that me and this girl had like some sort of interaction, but no one in my audience understood what, nor in her audience. I remember it got to the point where I just full on blocked her on everything. I blocked her on every platform I could think of to make sure that I don't have to interact with this girl anymore. But obviously, once you're obsessed, you're obsessed. And this girl was obsessed to the point where I remember I ended up getting a phone call one time randomly. And remember, I never gave this girl my number, but I remember I ended up getting a phone call, and when I answered it, I heard it was her. And I started freaking out. I'm like, wait, how'd you get my number? Oh, like your manager gave it to me. Wait, why did my manager give you my number? Oh, because like he wants us to like collab. It'll be so fun. Like, you gotta stop ignoring me, Baba. Seriously. If you start ignoring me and stuff, I'm going to expose you. At this point, when she said exposed, I'm not gonna lie. When a person with a big following says anything like that, it's the scariest thing you could get as a creator. So I remember I ended up telling her, yo, like chill out. Like we can talk about this. And me and her from then, we ended up started talking more and more just so I felt safe. I literally only talked to this girl just to feel safe. And I remember it got to the point where I ended up actually telling one of my friends about this. Now this guy I ended up telling, he's one of my IRLs and he is no way in any way connected to the internet. And he told me it would be smart if I ended up telling her manager about what's going on. So that's what I did. I ended up telling her manager basically the whole story. I got in contact with him and I told him everything. And her manager didn't believe me at first until I sent screenshots and stuff. And then this is where the story gets insane, because I remember once I showed her manager everything and basically tattletaled on this TikToker, right away this obsessed TikToker ends up calling me and being upset, yelling at me, screaming at me, and she ends up going on Twitter and basically making a long twit longer about complaining how I was trying to riz her up and being unprofessional when clearly she was the one being unprofessional. Obviously, when I saw this on Twitter, and this is advice to anyone that gets drama on Twitter, just don't interact with it. There is no need to interact with it. Just don't even bother with it. And that's what I did. I ignored it, and one thing led to another. It all ended up going away in a span of 2 months until this TikToker came back with something insane. But obviously, that's a story for a different time. Like and subscribe. And like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys. And then right after, I ended up getting a TikTok message saying that I got banned. And that's when I realized that this girl banned me. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing story. So today's story all takes place back actually 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, if you guys don't know, we were blowing up on TikTok. And it was one of the coolest things ever because we hit over 1 million followers. Thanks to you guys, obviously. And one thing I realized that once you start blowing up on TikTok, you have the ability to actually message other people and comment on their videos. And then usually what happens is that since you're a bigger TikToker, as they would say, people would start noticing it. So I remember me realizing this. I ended up basically commenting on a lot of different TikToks and stuff because I enjoyed going through TikTok 3 years ago. But then one thing led to another. I remember one of the most craziest things ended up happening. I remember I ended up basically seeing this TikToker, and this girl was a very beautiful girl on TikTok. She had over like, I want to say 200,000 followers at the time, and she was really attractive. And I remember what I decided to do was I decided to comment on her video saying, hey, you look like really cute. Now me thinking that this comment wasn't going to change anything, wasn't going to change my life, nothing. Well, boy, was I wrong, because what ended up happening was actually really insane. Where I remember one time I was sitting on my desk actually recording a video like I'm doing right now, and out of nowhere, I remember I ended up getting a notification on my phone. My phone said that someone followed me, and once I looked at the username, I kind of recognized it, but I didn't know from what, because like I said earlier, this was just from my For You page that I saw earlier. And when I clicked on it to see who the follow was from, I remember I ended up realizing that it was from the girl that was a thirst trap. And if you guys don't know what a thirst trapper is, by the way, a thirst trapper is when the girl basically records herself looking like she was really into you and wants to do the DEVILS tango. That's the really best way I can describe thirst trapper, but I mean, here's the actual definition if you really want it. But I will say this, I was never expecting her to follow me back. I remember when she followed me back, I decided that it would be funny if I actually DM'd her, because once you follow a person back, you actually have the ability to actually message them. So that's what I did. I ended up basically shooting her a message saying, hey, like, I thought you were super cute, and basically tried rizzing her up. But at that moment, I remember she actually ended up messaging me back right away saying, oh my goodness, Bubba, I actually love your story times. Now, when a girl says that she likes my story times, it's kind of mind-boggling, because to be honest, I don't know how many girls watch my videos. So if you're a girl, comment down below and tell me, because I don't think girls naturally just watch my videos for fun, because it would be very surprising to me if a girl was watching my videos. But going on with the story, but basically, I remember this girl ended up telling me that she loved my stories, and I was actually kind of happy. It made me realize that like it was really cool how another TikToker basically watched my videos. So I remember me and her started messaging a lot over the time. And I remember me and her, we actually started messaging more and more, and it got to the point where I actually ended up telling her to join my Discord server. If you guys don't know, I have a Discord server where I basically talk to all you guys in and basically communicate with you guys. So if you guys do want to join the Discord server, it's in the description down below. So I would advise clicking on the link and joining. But anywho, back to the story. I remember when she joined my Discord, instantly she ended up joining a call with me, and me and her, we started talking about becoming, you know, famous and wanting to become big content creators and stuff. And basically me and her had the same type of dream. But then me and her, we started playing games together, and it was actually really fun, you know, hanging out with other TikTokers and all this stuff, because, well, to be honest, when I was blowing up at the time, I wasn't really fully in the universe of talking to other YouTubers and content creators. But I remember as me and her were playing games though, she would always basically like kind of like talk to me and try to like flirt with me and stuff. And I found this kind of really cute and weird at the same time, because this girl's never met me in person, nothing. But I decided that, you know, why not flirt back? And basically me being the Rizzler that I was, I ended up basically, I guess, pulling her. And it got to the point where, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a big mistake, because I remember as the weeks went on, she kept basically messaging me, and she kept like, I don't know, being obsessed with me to the point where, I'm not gonna lie, it got to the point where I added her on all social medias, and she would just not let me breathe. By that I mean that she would always, and I mean always, just want to call me, talk to me, text me. Like, I had no time for myself to even work on my videos. And her, well, the only types of videos she has to do is stand in front of a camera and, like, I don't know, pull her cherries out. So I mean, for her it wasn't that difficult, but for me, I had to make sure that I actually got my work done. I remember there were times where I ended up ignoring her and stuff, and I basically laid on my bed one time and started scrolling through TikTok once again, because that was like a natural thing for me to do. And as I was laying in my bed scrolling through TikTok, I saw that there was a girl with a really funny post about her making something. I think she was like cooking some sort of like cake or whatever, and I love the cake and the way it looks. So I remember I decided to basically comment, hey, that's a really nice cake, and I ended up following this TikToker. Now, I think you guys kind of understand where this is going, because I remember I ended up getting a notification from this girl that was, you know, my TikTok girlfriend, I guess, at the time. And she ended up basically messaging me saying, Bubba, why'd you comment under this TikTok post? Do you know who this girl is? Are you talking to her too? No, I just followed her because she had a really cool cake. I didn't mean it like that. Wait, are you talking about her cake like her peach? Are you kidding me right now? You're flirting with other girls. No, I'm not flirting with other girls. I just meant like her actual cake. She does cooking. From there, she ended up straight up ignoring me. And I remember things got really bad, because she ended up not talking to me for a long time. And me thinking that she was just over me, I decided to just move on and keep working on my own thing. But boy, was I wrong, because what ends up happening next, I think, was severely illegal. I remember basically I was sitting in my Discord server just hanging out in my general call, and out of nowhere, I ended up seeing this girl join. The girl that I was, I guess, talking to, that was my TikTok girlfriend. And she ended up basically talking to me saying, Bubba, I want you to be honest with me. Can you please just unfollow her? Like, seriously, just do it right now. Unfollow who? The girl with like the cake that you keep talking about. Wait, you want me to unfollow her? Why? She's really nice and she's actually a really cool TikToker. Like, I like her videos. No, Bubba, you have to unfollow her right now. I remember she got really aggressive with me and she just wanted me to unfollow her. But me, I told her that she can't tell me what to do because, well, like, I'm not a simp. I'll follow who I want to follow. And obviously her hearing that, she did not want to have any of it. And I remember she ended up leaving the call and texted me right after that I would regret not following her. Now, at this moment, I didn't think she could do anything. And I didn't think, like, you know, other TikTokers really have the power to do anything as well. But I am not joking when I say this. This is where the story gets from crazy to like insane. Because I remember like 4 hours went by and I ended up getting a notification on my phone. And this notification was actually another follow, but from the girl that ended up making the cake in the first place that I followed earlier. And I remember when she followed me, I found it awesome. And I'm like, whoa, like this girl's really good at baking. Like, this is awesome. She followed me for some reason. And I started kind of worrying because out of nowhere, right as I go into my TikTok page, I ended up seeing a text message out of nowhere saying, Bubba, you're hitting her up right now. I know exactly what you're doing. Now at this moment, I found it really weird and I started like looking around my room thinking like, is she like here right now? Like, I don't feel alone right now. And I didn't understand how this girl knew that she followed me back because at the time, I think we hit over like 1.2 million followers. And I found it super, super weird how she was like basically tracking my following. But when she texted me that like she saw that she followed me, she ended up texting me right after again saying, Bubba, that's it. You're done for. And I ended up basically like questioning what that meant until one thing led to another. Out of nowhere, when I got that text message, I ended up getting banned. I don't know how. Out of nowhere, like my TikTok app just closed on my phone and I got banned. I ended up stressing out and thinking, how in the world did this just happen? And I started freaking out. And I remember I ended up basically going on my computer as fast as I could and trying to reach out to TikTok support. I even posted a tweet about it, about me worrying and freaking out about it. Like, it made no sense how I got banned. I remember I was sitting on my Discord server, just basically like trying to like figure out what's the best thing to do. And I ended up hearing this girl join once again. This girl joins and she says, Bubba, see, I told you lose everything if you follow her. Now I'm out of here. And she ended up leaving. At this moment, I knew that maybe talking to other TikTokers wasn't a really good idea because, well, I don't know. It feels like TikTok nowadays just leans more towards girls than guys on the platform. I know that sounds really weird and sexist, but it just makes sense to me after that experience. And I will say this, I ended up getting the account unbanned, luckily, but all I'm gonna say is that you guys should fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. This TikToker was obsessed with me to the point where she sent me her cherries. This story does get insane, so like and subscribe or you will never find a girlfriend. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba and welcome back to an embarrassing story. So today's story all takes place 2 years ago. 2 years ago, as you guys may know, we ended up blowing up on TikTok. We have over 2 million followers on there, and I gotta say, TikTok was one of the most insane things ever. Because once you're labeled as a TikToker, people start treating you differently. And I gotta say, me, I try to keep work as professional as possible, even though all I ever talk about is the DEVILS TANGO. But one thing I will say is that TikTokers, they don't care. Generally, I am now like gonna tell you guys the truth. TikTokers don't care if you're being professional or not. As long as you're posting a 1-minute video, you're cool enough. So I remember me being labeled as a TikToker. One thing I'd always do is just scroll through DMs and stuff and see, like, you know, what other creators I can reach out to and communicate with. Because when you become a creator, networking is like a major key to growing your account and business and just learning more about what it means to be a creator. But I remember one time when I posted on TikTok, I ended up getting a DM from this girl. Now this girl, she had a very, very popular TikTok account and she was known for thirst trapping. So obviously she liked my content because all I ever talked about was doing the DEVILS TANGO. And her being a thirst trapper, well, you know, I'm not gonna lie, she thought we had a lot in common when in reality we actually didn't. And I remember when she reached out to me, I tried to keep it as professional as possible. But then I remember when she DM'd me saying, oh, like, I was just wondering, like, are all the stories like real and stuff? I ended up telling her yes, and you know how like it is real and everything. And she was very impressed to the point where she told me, oh, like, okay, well, like, you should like add me on Snap. Okay, yeah, I can add you on Snap. Now at this time, my Snapchat wasn't public. I didn't really like add other creators and stuff because that was like my personal thing for me and my IRLs. But out of nowhere, I remember this girl decides to add me and I added her back, and me and her, we started talking. We started talking over Snapchat and she asked me the same question again, where she goes, yo, Bubba, I have a question. So I know I asked this before, but be real with me. Are the stories like real? Yes, the stories are real. I don't know why I have to tell you so many times. They're all real stories. Wait, so you actually have done the DEVILS TANGO that many times? Yeah, I had a pretty eventful childhood, I guess. And when I told her this, I'm not gonna lie, things went from professional to freaky. Because I remember right after I say that, she ends up sending me a message where she goes, well, I mean, that must mean you have a massive eggplant. I remember when I saw this, I remember thinking this is so unprofessional. And there is no way I should be communicating with this chick. Because this chick had a way bigger following than me and she was way more famous than me. So me interacting with this girl was probably not going to be a good idea. So what I decided to do was basically kind of like not talk to her as much and kind of ignore her. And I remember one time when I was streaming and actually live on Twitch, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing that I got a Snapchat message from her. It was a message of her watching my stream and she sent me a photo of her watching me live on Twitch. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. She's watching me. And then afterwards, she ends up sending me another photo right after when she saw that I was checking my phone on stream and sent me a photo of her cherries. This TikToker with over like millions of followers sent me a photo of her cherries when I was live streaming. This honestly blew my mind. And I remember instantly when I saw that, I slammed my phone on my desk and everyone on Twitch saw what I was doing. And I remember I was just kind of freaking out, trying to play it off, pretend nothing was happening. But obviously, I won't lie to you. I was bricked. I was. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like I never do on this channel, but I ended up getting bricked. And this honestly led to me, well, not thinking straight. Because I remember I ended up ending stream a bit early that day. And I remember I ended up laying on my bed, basically wanting to take a nap because I usually get super tired after streams. And I remember I ended up getting a Snapchat message from this girl once again. She ended up saying like how I did a good job on stream and stuff, acting all professional. But then she sends me another photo of her cherries. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Why not? I remember me and her, we ended up basically doing the things over the phone. I'm not going to say what, but basically the DEVILS TANGO over the phone through Snapchat, which by the way, you should not do. It is a very unsafe platform to do that, and be safe with what you guys do. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do this. Me and her, we ended up doing that, and one thing led to another. This girl became absolutely obsessed with me to the point where I actually started freaking out. Because I remember after that whole thing, I decided that maybe it would be best if I don't communicate with this girl as much, because obviously I want to be professional. I want to be, you know, known to be not a weirdo on the internet. So obviously I ended up basically telling her like, yo, like we should not do this again. We should be professional. And she ended up saying, Bubba, we're TikTokers. We don't need to be professional. I ended up not saying anything after that and basically started ignoring her. And me, the more I ignored her, the more she would find ways to try to interact with me. Like, for example, when I would stream on Twitch, she would basically spam my DMs and spam my Discord account and basically try to like get in touch with me. And for example, if I wasn't talking to her on there, she would basically try to like go through my TikTok comments and basically try to get people to add me to message her. It got to the point where it was so bad and people started noticing that me and this girl had like some sort of interaction, but no one in my audience understood what, nor in her audience. I remember it got to the point where I just full on blocked her on everything. I blocked her on every platform I could think of to make sure that I don't have to interact with this girl anymore. But obviously, once you're obsessed, you're obsessed. And this girl was obsessed to the point where I remember I ended up getting a phone call one time randomly. And remember, I never gave this girl my number, but I remember I ended up getting a phone call, and when I answered it, I heard it was her, and I started freaking out. I'm like, wait, how'd you get my number? Oh, like your manager gave it to me. Wait, why did my manager give you my number? Oh, because like he wants us to like collab. It'll be so fun. Like, you gotta stop ignoring me, Baba. Seriously. If you start ignoring me and stuff, I'm going to expose you. At this point, when she said exposed, I'm not gonna lie. When a person with a big following says anything like that, it's the scariest thing you could get as a creator. So I remember I ended up telling her, yo, like chill out. Like we can talk about this. And me and her from then, we ended up started talking more and more just so I felt safe. I literally only talked to this girl just to feel safe. And I remember it got to the point where I ended up actually telling one of my friends about this. Now this guy I ended up telling, he's one of my IRLs and he is no way in any way connected to the internet. And he told me it would be smart if I ended up telling her manager about what's going on. So that's what I did. I ended up telling her manager basically the whole story. I got in contact with him and I told him everything. And her manager didn't believe me at first until I sent screenshots and stuff. And then this is where the story gets insane, because I remember once I showed her manager everything and basically tattletaled on this TikToker, right away, this obsessed TikToker ends up calling me and being upset, yelling at me, screaming at me. And she ends up going on Twitter and basically making a long twit longer about complaining how I was trying to riz her up and being unprofessional when clearly she was the one being unprofessional. Obviously, when I saw this on Twitter, and this is advice to anyone that gets drama on Twitter, just don't interact with it. There is no need to interact with it. Just don't even bother with it. And that's what I did. I ignored it, and one thing led to another. It all ended up going away in a span of 2 months until this TikToker came back with something insane. But obviously, that's a story for a different time. Like and subscribe. And like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys. All right, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So this story takes place back when I was 17 years old. I was still in high school, being annoying and being the same person as usual. I know, kind of weird for me to say, but at the same time, I did get a lot of the DEVILS TANGO. If you guys are new to the channel, you guys would not know this, but hey, what can I say? I'm just a lady slayer. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember basically one day I ended up going inside my classroom and everyone was talking about this one app that everyone loves and cares about, and that's TikTok. So if you guys don't know, I do TikTok. A lot of people on this channel know this. I have over like 2 million followers on TikTok, and I love each and every single one of you guys. But the one thing I'm gonna say is that if you want to have a TikTok like career, unless you're popping numbers like Charlie D'Amelio after like, you know, flaking what, 3 different boyfriends and still being weird to this day, you're not doing much for yourself. But I remember one time when TikTok was getting really popular back in my high school, there was one girl in our class who was the most weirdest girl on the planet. She literally loved TikTok. Like, I'm not joking when I say this. The amount of time she was dancing in our class, just filming a TikTok, it was the most cringiest thing, but she would do it every single day, to the point where she literally had like over 100 drafts of just her doing TikToks in our classroom. And no, it wasn't anything entertaining like an interview or anything. They were all straight up the same thing over and over. Her doing a simple dance that Charlie D'Amelio posted a day before. I don't understand why this was getting so popular, and I don't know why she kept doing it in our classroom. But I remember one day even, and this was I think the most cringiest thing that made our entire class almost hate this girl. She literally decided to, in the middle of a class test, stand up and do like the renegade when we were all doing a test and sitting down doing our work. All we hear in the background coming out of her phone was renegade, renegade. And you just see her hands like doing this like weird movements. Like, I'm not gonna lie, every time I see a kid doing like a TikTok dance, I think they're having a seizure. Like, it was seriously concerning, and it got to the point where my teacher was annoyed, and every day she would always end up getting her phone taken away right in the beginning of class so that she wouldn't go on and do TikToks. I mean, fair enough. I'm not gonna lie. As a cringy TikToker myself, like, I understand wanting to blow up and, you know, become famous and stuff. But I'm telling you right now, if you're in school and you have those weird girls that like do TikTok together as a squad and stuff, you gotta admit, it's the most cringiest thing on the planet. And I don't care if even you're that person, stop doing it. People go to school to learn, not to do the renegade or to do any TikTok dance. And I don't care how many girls out there think, oh my God, like I'm trying to become like followers and get famous. Or you have those typical excuse that every girl makes where it's like, oh, like, you know, like I just like dancing. Like, be quiet, bro. In the middle of public, I bet before TikTok, you wouldn't even dare to dance in public unless you were actually a dancer. Anyway, sorry for my little rant there. It's just, it gets seriously annoying when I keep hearing about these dumb kids doing these dumb dance movements. Like, it makes me triggered, and I don't get triggered that easily. Anyways, after months and months of her doing the same thing over and over again, doing TikToks in her class, I remember one day she came to the classroom excited. She was freaking out, and she literally looked at everyone saying, guys, I'm literally TikTok famous. And I remember all of us in the class started looking at her and we're like, what? Because we literally had no idea what she was talking about. And then afterwards, I remember she ended up going in front of the class and we all had to like give an update of what we were doing with our lives. I don't know. Our teacher did this so we get to know each other more. Kind of cringe, but it is what it is. And I remember she stood up in front of the class and said, so literally like this weekend, I literally blew up on the internet. Like, I'm not even joking. I got like over like 100,000 followers on my TikTok, and like I literally blew up. I remember everyone in the classroom just kind of had their jaw dropping because 100,000 followers is a lot of people. And then I remember I basically went on my phone, searched her up on TikTok, and she was right. At this moment, she had 115,000 followers, and she just kept getting followers as I kept refreshing. I have no idea how she blew up. So I remember when I went down to her videos and I checked out one of her videos, it was literally her in a bikini doing jumping jacks. Yeah, I don't know what TikTok's dance this was, but literally it was just her doing jumping jacks in a bikini. Warning, this girl was in high school. So if anyone's asking, oh my God, like what's her at? I'm not gonna tell you because that's creepy. But no, to this day, I remember I was really weirded out and I just didn't understand how she blew up because of her doing this. And I remember a lot of girls in our classroom actually started to dislike her after seeing what video blew up on her page, because she had like one video with over like 2 million views of just her doing jumping jacks, gained a lot of followers. Like, I don't know, every girl in our classroom was straight up like being snarky with her and saying like, oh my God, like you only blew up because you have big cherries. Like no one actually cares about you. Oh my God, you think you're famous, but in reality, like you didn't do anything with your life. And basically she started getting bullied, which I mean, fair enough. I'm not gonna lie. If I went back to school with my videos, I would probably get bullied as well. Like I wouldn't be able to pull any chicks if I did this back in high school. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember after gaining 100,000 followers, she blew up another video again of her doing the same thing, and she ended up getting to 200,000 followers. And at this point, everyone in our classroom started kind of liking her more, but at the same time not dissing her. Like for example, when she would like take out her phone and start doing a TikTok, she would complain and make an excuse that, oh my God, guys, like I'm literally doing my job, like leave me alone. And she would start pulling some dance moves. It was super weird because the only videos that would actually blow up on her page was literally the ones with her doing jumping jacks in a bikini when she was back at home by her pool. But it was super funny because I remember one day in the middle of class when she pulled out the excuse that she was doing her job, everyone was wondering the same question. How much money did she really make off doing these silly TikToks? People thought that she was making like more than $100,000 a day just because she had over 100,000 followers, which by the way, as a creator, I'm gonna say this right now, as creators, we don't actually make that much. Like, if you guys think like we're just rich and famous, we're maybe famous, but we're not rich, okay? Like, there's a lot of us out there that aren't rich. Like, not all of us are Mr. Beast level, okay? Anyways, going on with the story, I remember one day she went in front of the class and she started explaining her job to everyone because everyone just had that in their mind, and even my teacher was curious of how much money she make. And she literally just said to us all, oh my goodness, like, my manager told me I'm not allowed to tell you guys how much I make, but I'm just gonna say this right now, I don't think I'm gonna be in school any longer. I remember when she said that, all of us kind of looked at her saying, wait, so you're not gonna graduate next year? Because we were 17. We were supposed to literally graduate the next year, but for some reason, she was telling everyone in the school that she was actually dropping out of high school, which by the way was the most dumbest thing ever. Like, me knowing this now as a creator and as a person with like over like 1 million followers, I can easily say that having 1 million followers on TikTok even is not enough to get you out of school. But I remember basically everyone was just having that serious question of, why is she dropping out? Like, are you serious? You're dropping out of school? And then I remember one day I decided to walk up to her and ask her some questions, because if you guys didn't know, back in high school, I still loved the idea of becoming a content creator. So I went up and asked her saying, hey, like, I'm planning on maybe like one day making a YouTube channel and just, you know, doing some cool content. I was just curious, like, make enough to like make a living off it basically. Like, you know, like if you want to like move out and do everything, could you just do it from just making videos? And then I remember she told me, honestly, like, Bubba, I don't think you understand anything about content. I mean, you can try becoming a content creator, but I doubt you're gonna blow up or anything. But one thing I can definitely tell you is that it takes a lot of work. And like on top of that, like, you know how hard it is to like dress into like really good clothing that people like to wear? Like, from what you're wearing right now, I don't think you're gonna blow up. But honestly, from how much I really make, like I said to the class, I can't disclose that information. But all I can say is, like, I don't know, I make more than like $5,000 a month. Huh? Is what I said. $5,000 a month. Don't get me wrong, that's over minimum wage, but for a girl that only has 2,500 followers from TikTok, I don't believe this was true. I didn't believe it at all, to be honest. But then she kept going on with her thing, and I want to say 2 weeks later, she actually ended up dropping out of school. Now, all of us knew she dropped out because, you know, she never showed up to class anymore. And we just kept seeing on her page every day at lunchtime as we were all still in the classroom sometimes. We all saw that she was just kept posting and posting, and she went from posting 1 TikTok a day to posting like 5. And it was all the same thing. I swear this girl lived beside her pool and just kept wearing the same bikini and doing jumping jacks. Don't get me wrong, she kept getting views and she got up to 500,000 followers at this point. But one thing I'll say is that I want to say a year later, after like, you know, the whole year of graduation and everything, I remember she ended up coming back to school. Except she came back to school with everyone laughing at her and making fun of her. The reason she got banned was apparently that her page was taken down for DEVILS TANGO promoting, and apparently she's decided to start up an OnlyFans in the middle of it, and they found out that she was underage and she ended up getting banned. Yeah, kind of not a good idea. Like, don't get me wrong, girls out there that want to use their body for content and stuff, you can do what you want. It's your body, but at the same time, it always has a risk. Anyways, I remember basically one day her parents were dropping her off at school, and I remember one day when she came into the school being all sad after her parents dropped her off, I walked up to her and said, hey, like, you know, how's like work and stuff? And she looked at me kind of like all sad, and she's like, I don't have social media. Like, I don't really use social media anymore. It's kind of like off topic anyway. And I remember I looked at her, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you were all about it literally like not even like a couple months ago. And then she said, oh yeah, like I kind of just stopped. I decided to like retire from it, I guess. And then yeah, apparently none of that was true. Apparently she just wasn't allowed social media because her parents restricted her from it ever since they found out she made an OnlyFans. And yeah, it was just not a good time for her. But all I'm gonna say is out there to all the people wanting to be YouTubers and content creators and, you know, become like the next Mr. Beast or whatever, it's a lot of work. And don't think we're all just rich and famous just because we make videos. Like, sometimes we just do it for fun, like me. Anyways, guys, that's basically it for today's story. Make sure you do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, follow for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys.